Just confirming that everyone can see the screen. I can't see it from my angle.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're going to go over a subject today which may sound a little different than a lot of the usual talks that you get in a masjid. I'm going to go over a term. It's right here on the title, paradigms, which, it's not really usually a subject or a term that we hear in the masjids or in the khutbahs, maybe sometimes here at MNN, but not usually. So I'm going to start with just talking about what this term is, and then I'll explain to you why this is important, why this is something that I think we need to talk about, and why it's important to discuss. But just so I have some sort of idea about, what the what everyone here is actually familiar with. Is this a term that you guys know? Do you guys know what a paradigm is? Does this? I see a couple of nods, but mostly looks like. Okay. Well, let's jump into it. Take a look at this picture first. So you may think that, oh, you're just showing me some sort of optical illusion. But tell me, what do you see? Shout it out. What's the first thing that you see? I hear duck. Rabbit. Hear rabbit. Think about, how did you decide what you actually saw? Think through what was going on in your head when your brain told you that, hey, I'm looking at a duck versus I'm looking at a rabbit. But now that you hear both, everyone can see that it could be one or the other, right? But try to reflect on that. Maybe in your life, you see more ducks in your neighborhood, and that's why you saw the duck first. Maybe at school, you were reading a book, had a rabbit in it, and maybe that's why you saw that one first. Just think about, where did that come from? How did you make that choice to see it in one way or the other? And then, what did you think about when you heard the other animal, and then your brain shifted for a second and said, oh, yeah, I can see that. Does everyone have a chance to reflect on that for a second? Here's another example. Shout out what you can see. Someone sees a rabbit again?
A young girl.
Who saw an old lady with a wart on her nose? That was the first thing you saw? And then did anybody see a really young lady looking away? Why think about one over the other? What came? But does everyone see both now? Can we acknowledge that when you look at a picture like this, yes, eventually you can see both, but when you're looking at it, you can only see one at a time? Your brain is only going to let you see one, the one that you're thinking about, until you think about the other, and then you see the other one. Does that make sense? Before I move on, I see some shaking of the head. Who can't see both pictures? Do you want me to help you out here? Do you see, what do you see right now? The old lady? So you see the lips of the old lady, right? That is the young lady's necklace. Do you see the wart on the nose of the old lady? That's the young lady's full nose. Do you see it now? Okay. Finally, one more. Those of you who are in your 20s, maybe even your 30s, definitely not as old as me in my mid-40s, there was something that went viral a few years ago where the entire internet was debating this picture. Do you remember this one? Where everyone in the internet was convinced that their view of what this picture was, the colors in this picture, was correct. And they refused to believe that what the other group of people saw was real. So, does anybody here see this dress as being blue and gold. What color do you see this dress as? White? Listen, I was watching this unfold on the internet 10 years ago where they could not imagine how anybody could see this other than the color that they were seeing it. And the debates that raged because it just did not make sense to them until someone showed a couple of high contrast pictures next to each other to say that, yeah, there's a reason why some people see those darker stripes as black and not gold. But that's legitimately how people's brains see it because of whatever reasons, and we can get into those. But I just wanted to open up this talk today with a few of these examples to show you can look at something, you have a way of looking at it, and then you see a different perspective, and your entire view of that can instantly change. So far, so good? So, when you feel certainty about what is in these pictures that we just went over, that certainty is not coming from the image, because that image was the same thing that was shown to everybody else who came to different conclusions. But the lens that you used in your mind to interpret what that picture was, that is what we call a paradigm. It's the way that you look at what the reality around you is. So we were constraining reality here to just one picture to show you the example that you are seeing that reality through a specific lens, through a specific set of frameworks, experiences, decisions that gave you a conclusion when you looked at it. But that lens in its entirety, that thing that shapes how you view what you're looking at, that is a paradigm. I mean, there's more technical definitions, but I thought this approach would allow us to really get the feeling of the definition of what a paradigm is. Any questions before I move on? So the concept that I actually want to talk about today is not what a paradigm is, because I can explain that in a few minutes, but what a paradigm shift is and why that's important. So does anyone want to guess what I mean when I say paradigm shift? It's very much related to the examples that we were just showing, but that's a very simplistic view. Go ahead. What's your... So the answer was when your eyes change the interpretation. That's close. It's when... Actually, let's get into it. But any other guesses? Any other... Okay. I guess now I have to ask more questions. Yes, go ahead. Oh, you raise your hand. Right. So, brother here said when the framework through which you are looking has shifted, has changed, so now you can reach a different conclusion. Yes. Yes, exactly. So when you were looking from one perspective, change your view, and the paradigm shift is the thing that allows you to change your view, the change through which you are looking. So the key point to remember as I go through my example on the next slide is that the reality itself, the thing that you're looking at, does not change. There's no new introduction of facts on the ground that are changing. Your reality that you're looking at is still the same. It's just how you're looking at it. That there's a certain lens through which you're looking that changes, and then that changes your understanding of what you're looking at. So let's go into a classic example. This is one that people talk about all the time when talking about paradigm shift. It's one of the bigger paradigm shifts that happened in the story of humans, that for a very long time, people had the assumption and when they looked into the cosmos, when they looked at the stars, when they examined the universe around them, they started off with the assumption that the Earth was in the center of it all, and everything revolved around the Earth. So when they were looking at the stars and the sky, they saw Mercury and Venus and the moon come in front of the sun. So they assumed those were in closer orbit to the Earth. They assumed the sun was next behind that. Then they assumed that the other planets, Jupiter, Saturn, these ones were further away than the sun because that's what they were looking at. And then they assumed the stars, which were the farthest away, were the furthest most. And they assumed that was the model of the universe, that that's how everything worked. And, if we're looking at how the mathematical equations of how orbits are defined, you can actually keep that model in mind, and the math works out. You can design all of your math and your science around that model. It's valid. It's very, very complicated. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like in a second. But it's not untrue in the sense that it's just a way of looking at things. Because, all these bodies in space are in motion relative to each other. You can define a model, but it's kind of dumb because it's so complicated and it's so over the top, unnecessarily convoluted, that when you look at it from a larger perspective, when human beings were able to zoom out a bit more and realize that in our solar system, everything's revolving around the sun, that model is way simpler because we can explain everything we see very, very clearly. And it's just concentric circles around the sun, and that is the simplest math there is. And it changed everything. We were able to then advance much further in our understanding of how the galaxy operates and scientific laws just from that change in perspective. So, actually I can't. I was going to show you a diagram of how the Earth center model looks like, but the video is not loading here. That's okay. So, a paradigm shift is not technically the addition of new information about what you're looking at. It's the same data, but just explained differently. And it's through paradigms that we decide what makes sense. And the right paradigm gives you a much cleaner, a much simpler, a better view of reality, where if you have an incorrect paradigm, you could still make things work, but it would be very difficult. Or you'd arrive at a wrong conclusion because the lens that you were looking at was distorted. So the shift is necessary to actually get to the most efficient or best understanding of reality. All right, so far so good? Now, why am I speaking about this at a Friday night Halqa? Oh, and then this was just one more animation I wanted to show, that everyone, when they think about the solar system, thinks the sun in the center and then the planets moving around it. But we're all aware the sun's actually moving through space. It's orbiting the giant black hole in the center of the Milky Way. So if you were to zoom out of our solar system, this is what you see. You see the sun moving with all the planets orbiting around it, and that's what it would look like. So I just thought it was a fun example of just another minor shift in how we view our galaxy, our solar system and our galaxy. That how many of us think of the solar system this way when we imagine it? We probably just imagine concentric circles, right? Just a fun aside. Okay, so hey guys. So, there are several paradigms that eventually I want to cover with you guys. But today, we're going to focus on one. And that is the paradigm or the lens that we look through when we are trying to figure out what is the purpose of life. So keep that in mind. Paradigm number one that we're discussing, what is or how do we understand the lens to look through when thinking about what is the purpose of life? So here's a question for everyone. And I have provided some examples here, but I want you to tell me what you honestly think about when you think about the question, what is at the center of your life? And what do I mean by center? Everyone, they value something different. That everyone loves many, many things, but there's always one thing that you love a little bit more, and you try to maximize that, and you try to put your focus on that. And some examples of what I have thought about that could be the center of your life are your family, your job or your career, the fun that you try to have, getting some sort of influence or power in your society, building wealth, getting rich, looks maxing, getting those gains, getting a higher status in your community, being able to say that, hey, I've made it to the upper echelons, or just anything else you desire. So I want to hear from you. Did I miss stuff? What is at the center of your life? Does anybody on the sister side want chocolates? Success in akhirah. Okay? Seem to have missed an important one. Yes. Allah? Allah, okay. In the Quran, in Surah Al-Hadid, Allah warns or explains that what do a large number of people really spend their life doing? What is important to them? What is worldly life? Play, pastime, things that are charming, being able to boast among yourselves, competing or vying in getting more money, more children. These are the things that humans have made important. The Quran refers to this center or this lens as at-takathur. And a lot of you, most of you, pretty much all of you will have heard this word. It's the word of a small surah in the 30th juz, Alhaakumut takathur. This is, what does takathur mean? This is where people compete to attain more abundance than the others around them. And this I'm framing as the maximization paradigm, that this view that Allah is warning us about of always competing to maximize what you have, this is not only a paradigm that we're being warned about, but this is a huge, it's a lens that a large number of people have employed, and they may not even know it. Most people in the world, if you really look down to it, how are they viewing life on a day-to-day basis as they're going through their day in, day out? What is the lens that they are looking through? They are looking through this lens of at-takathur, of maximizing abundance. And what the worst part is, we don't even think about the lens that we're looking through. Is just a default, because we live in 2025 in the West. This is beat into us from the beginning. We go to school, you're competing to get grades. Why? So that you can become a worker, so that you can go out and live your 9 to 5, working for the man, getting your money, being able to pay your bills. But this becomes the focus because our society is designed around this. So we all just keep feeling it and seeing it, and it's beaten into us on a day-to-day basis. We don't have the time to sit down and think, where did this lens come from? Why do we live in this rat race? It's just a default that just exists in the fabric of society around us. And when you sit down to analyze it, this paradigm of maximization, it can be traced back to all problems, or it's fundamentally all problems. That everything that goes wrong, all the excesses that we see, the way that society and institutions and the systems around us break down, it's breaking down due to excessive consumption, excessive greed, excessive vying for abundance, and our inability to not just control it, but to even see that that's how we've directed our life. That is why it's important to look through this situation from the perspective of paradigms, that if we sit and look at our own life, we may say that we are akhirah centered or Allah centered, but did we actually sit and reflect that how are we looking at our life on a day-to-day basis around us, and what lens are we looking through? Because I can tell you, all of us, we very, very easily slip into this maximization paradigm continuously, because whether it's our fault or not, because of how deeply embedded it is into society, especially the world we live in now, it requires us to sit and think, what is the paradigm that we're looking through? So what am I asking for then? What am I saying that we should think about? That there is a shift that has to happen. There needs to be an adjustment to the lens of how we see the world, of how we see what we're looking at when we look at our lives in front of us. And that shift makes us ask these questions to ourselves, that what is the ideal paradigm? With what lens should we look at reality? And what should be at our center? And one of the brothers, he did hit it on the head in Surah Naziat. We have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَىٰ. And as for him who feared to stand before his Lord and restrained himself from his desires, then surely the garden will be his abode. Look at that characteristic of restraining himself from his desires, to look at what are the things that you think that you might be wanting to attain, and where does that restraint come from? Because the paradigm that we're trying to shift to, that we need to immediately shift to, even though how it manifests may be a longer, harder struggle, but the immediate shift that we should all be looking to is, how do we center our lives around Allah? What is the Allah-centered paradigm? What does it look like? And fundamentally, it requires that our efforts be oriented towards maximizing the attainment and pleasure of Allah, so that everything in our life is done for Him. It's just a simple statement, but if you look through everything that you do and everything that you assess in your life ahead of you, and you look at it through that paradigm, instantly your view changes. This is the shift that we're talking about, that it's just your orientation. Think about it, that you're looking through life through just that lens, and constantly keeping that lens in front of your face. Now, I'm not trying to say that, we don't try to get any of the pleasures of this life. We accept and enjoy the pleasures that come our way in this life, but they're not the goal. Everything revolves around Allah and His pleasure. And this is what maximizes our success, with the best outcomes in this life and the admission into paradise in the next life. This lens is what, again, I'll say it again, having this lens is what gives us success here on earth, gives us the best outcomes, including the pleasures and the enjoyments of this life. And this is what gives us our success in the hereafter. So, for paradigm number 1, around the purpose of life, the conclusion is that for anyone to succeed as a Muslim, the first paradigm shift that has to take place is that you are, instead of, and this may not be happening actively in your brain, it may be a passive result of where we sit in society and us not engaging, but recognizing when we are trying to maximize worldly gains and shift that so that paradigm in front of us is about maximizing Allah's pleasure. And then in future programs, we will go through other paradigms beyond the purpose of life. We'll discuss the paradigms of faith, of obedience, and of practice, and what kind of shifts are required in each of these subjects to make sure that we get that same level of efficiency, usefulness, success with what we're doing, that our paradigm and the lens that we're looking through is correctly aligned so that we do all of these things in an effective way. That's it. Any questions? Yep.
So what's your question?
The question is like, how can you can say that we have that lens, but we cannot change ourselves like orthodoxically?
So you are asking, can we change the lens or not, or if we can change, how?
Like we know that we have that lens, but the system forces us to follow whatever the society is doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so a few things. So was everyone able to hear the question? One point, like you mentioned, that there's a difference between the lens and the resulting actions. What I'm advocating for immediately right now is being very conscious about the lens, understanding what lens we are using to view reality. That is independent of the actual reality on like what condition or situation you find yourself in. And I'm not reducing the magnitude of the difficulty of, living in a society that's steeped in end-stage neoliberal capitalism and all of the pains that come with it. I agree. It is hard. It is difficult. You are right. But the very first step that we do is at least recognize that the actions that we're taking, why are we doing them? What view or what way should we be looking at the time that we are spending or what we are trying to maximize or focus? Whether that translates into really effective fight against that system or you're just trying to survive in it, that's really going to depend on your capabilities, your situation, your community, who you've teamed up with, how involved you are, what your level of activism is, and it's going to grow and it's going to change. We're not saying that you're going to change your lens and become perfect, but the first step is change your lens. Make sure that you're looking at it through that perspective, that you're cognizant that you're not in that maximization paradigm, that you've shifted so that you're Allah-centered. But then how that plays out, that's our jihad. And that's what we're going to have to really put our efforts in and figure out our ways to contribute to building the situation that we want, how we're going to contribute to breaking the oppressive situations that exist, and how we're going to build a community around that. That's all part of that's a lifelong game. But the instant game, the thing that you do immediately is make sure that your lens is shifted correctly, that you have that on straight, and it's at the forefront of your mind when you wake up, every time you pray, 5 times a day. What are we trying to align back to when we worship and connect back with Allah 5 times a day? It's, what is our lens? Well, how are we looking at the time? How did we do in the time before? What are we going to do in the time after this salah? End your day with this. That's it. That's the paradigm shift. How that translates now into action, that's like the life's goal.
Okay. Any questions from sisters? Any more questions? Yes, brother.
Yeah, just going back to the point about paradigm shift. Like one of the issues residing as Muslims in the West is that we live in a secular liberal world. You mentioned you have a lot of consumerism in society. You have secular way of thinking that we are taught at schools, in our office, our organizational behavior structure. Organizations are based on this system, which is the capitalist system, and where power, money controls the world. And as Muslims, we have a unique perspective. As you mentioned, is our perspective and purpose in this life is the pleasure for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that pleasure, we see Islam as ambassadors. And we see that Islam is a deen. It's a system, a way of life. It's an alternative to capitalism, where Islam has its own economic system. Islam has its own ruling system.
Yeah, so what's your question, brother?
Social system. Islam has its own education policy. So what do you think is the fundamental issue within the Muslim community in sort of understanding this paradigm shift? That we are ambassadors of Islam and we represent Islam as an alternative ideology to consumerism, to capitalism, to LGBTQ liberalism agendas.
Sorry, so I'm trying to figure out what the question. So the question was, why are we not doing that? Why are we not presenting this as an alternative structure?
Not fit in, but how, for example, there's a disconnect within the Muslim community of understanding the paradigm shift is that Islam is a deen, it's a way of life, it's a system, it's an alternative to capitalism. So as Muslims, when we are living in the West, we are representative. We are ambassadors of Islam, and we have to present Islam as an alternative system, way of life. And sometimes we just see from a secular point of view, you go to the mosque and you pray, you fast.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean that is again the details of implementation about what your mission and your activism is going to take you to do. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I am speaking to ensuring that we are all aligned to look at it through the same lens so that we can come together as a community around subjects like that. But again, we cannot align and we cannot unite on this until everyone is thinking that what is the priority, what is the lens that we look through, and that's the scope of where today's discussion is, really.
So, brother, the purpose of the program for this get-together and the programs and the topics we are using here is exactly to do what you're mentioning here. So we have that disconnect, we want to overcome it, and we want to motivate our community to make those changes which are needed. So that's exactly the purpose of the program. Jazakumullah khairan. And go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. You mentioned, that you could balance fun and also having this Allah-centered lens. Could you kind of explain a little bit more, like?
Yes. So the question was balancing fun and the Allah-centered lens. So to be fair, I didn't use the word balance. So I don't believe that there's a balance to be had. I contend that the priority and the focus across the board is the Allah-centered lens. That is your objective. That is the way that you're looking through life for. And the pleasures of this world, the enjoyments of this world, they are there for us to enjoy as secondary goals, as as things to work towards under the umbrella of the Allah-centered lens, not as, I'll do half my time on having fun and then half the time thinking that what does God want from me? It's all what does God want from me, and through that, living a clean, healthy, efficient, good life in His service, you do end up with things that are great outcomes for you. You do, because an Allah-centered life builds in you characteristics of truthfulness and excellence and ihsan and taqwa. These things bring you goodness in your life. They bring you wealth and happiness and contentment, and you're going to have good things. Enjoy them. Those are secondary goals, but everything falls under that. So you can't say balance, meaning some of my time I'm just thinking about how to have fun and I don't put it under the paradigm, and then I use the paradigm of the Allah-centered the rest of the time. It's not a split. It's everything under this with a multitude of benefits, including worldly enjoyment. Does that make more sense?
So inshallah, keep coming to the program. We'll have a lot of examples and expanding on these actually themes. So that's the purpose. So we start thinking about it and coming up with alternatives and see how we can best practice it. Inshallah.
Yeah, when we go through the faith and obedience sections and what the paradigm shifts for those are, a lot of this will also become clearer. Inshallah.
Okay. So I think we should go to Kahoot now. So everybody get ready. So inshallah we need to work together on this. So everybody has their phones ready?
Sorry, I'm having internet issues. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Guest is phone karo.
I tried, it wasn't connecting, so.
Okay, no more. Yeah, go on. Okay, no more. Thank you. यहाँ का guest is वहाँ का.
Tried it, wouldn't do it. I tried it, wouldn't do it.
But ज़िया साहब, आपको पासवर्ड मालूम है यहाँ का? गिफ्ट दे दे.
किस चीज़ का? सॉरी,
कार्ड, गिफ्ट कार्ड.
कितनी देर का कोई कितनी देर में कोई टेबल लगाने के लिए पूछ रहा हूँ.
15.
All right, if anyone can see the screen, the pin is 306694.
फोन तो ਕੱਢ ਲਓ ਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ. ਫੋਨ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਪਾਰਟਿਸਿਪੇਟ
फोन असां रखे नहीं आए.
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ
असां फोन रखे नहीं आए.
ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਗਿਫਟ ਦੇਣਾ.
ਨਾਲੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਪੈਰਾਡਾਈਮ ਚੇਂਜ ਕਰੋ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੇਂਜ ਕੀਤਾ ਨਾ. ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦਾ ਛੱਡ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ. ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਫੋਨ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ
डबल स्टैंडर्ड ने एक पास चल चेंज करो जो कीता तो तुम तू फोन कढो.
ਇਹ ਇਲਮ ਦਾ ਮੁਕਾਬਲਾ ਹੈ. ਇਹ ਡਬਲ ਸਟੈਂਡਰਡ ਨਹੀਂ
नहीं
ਹੈ.
असां अपना
पैराडाइम चेंज कर रहा है ना शिफ्ट कर रहे
Okay, 30 more seconds. Does anyone need any more time? Okay, I'll wait for you.
So you can see the okay. कैसे हैं?
दस पाँच पाँच
Okay, are we ready? If you guys were paying attention, this will be a very easy Kahoot, which means it'll be very competitive. So answer quickly. That's the only way for you to get ahead. Every question here is directly related to one of my slides.
And I have the gift cards.
Okay,
Second and third.
we are starting. Still not? Okay. It's okay. It'll let you join. It will let you join.
It's okay, you can continue.
All right, question 1. What is a paradigm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job.
We won't go through this one since everyone got it right except for a couple. Let's move on. All right. Question number 2 is a true and false. In the images that had 2 interpretations, you can clearly see both interpretations at the exact same time. Everyone's answers are in. So 14 of you said true. But no, you cannot see them at the exact same time. You can see both, but your brain lets you switch. Oh, that's some big changes. Okay. Question 3. A paradigm shift is best described as... Excellent. Good job. A change in the way things are seen. Multi-select. Remember, you can select more than one. Select all that apply about paradigms. Okay, so they are not always consciously chosen. This was a key point that sometimes we're not even aware of what paradigm we are using to look at reality because society tells us, or it's just a default. So it's very important to be consciously aware of what paradigm we are using. Remember, the time here is only 15 seconds, so get your answers in quickly. What question is asked to identify a person's paradigm of life? Get your answers in and correct. What do you believe is true, sounds right, but it's still a little bit more complicated than that. It's about what's at the center of your life. Okay, only 4 more to go. The maximization paradigm is focused on maximizing what?
खत्म होने वाला है.
आप 5 मिनट एंगेज करेंगे ना,
That's-
अभी लगा देते हैं तो बच्चे लाइन लगा के खड़े हो जाते हैं.
नहीं अभी 4 क्वेश्चन रह गए हम जल्दी.
Okay, a lot of people said it's maximizing the knowledge of reality. No. The maximization paradigm that we talked about was maximizing worldly abundance. That's the name of that paradigm that we gave. It wasn't the knowledge of reality. Three more. The Quran describes competition for worldly abundance as At-Takathur, a surah that you all know. True or false? Most people are fully aware that they are viewing reality through the maximization lens. This is false because most people don't think about this. They don't try to identify the lens that they're looking at. So they're not fully aware. That's why this is marked as false. Second last question. The first paradigm shift required for success as a Muslim is moving from this one should be easy. I don't want to see any wrong answers on this one. Okay, some wrong answers. Yes, we should not maximize ignorance. That's true, but that's not the paradigm shift we talked about. We talked about changing it so that you're maximizing the pleasure of Allah. Last question. This one is a double points question. Multi-select. Make sure you get the right number of answers. According to the Allah-centered paradigm, a Muslim The correct answers are red and green. Enjoys the pleasures of this life as secondary objectives, orients all efforts towards Allah's pleasure. 14 of you who still think that you spend part of your life for the dunya and part of your life for the deen, you are incorrect. This is not a valid paradigm. Okay, let's see the final results.
And that will become clear in future programs. Actually, all these concepts will be going into depth, and that why that answer was not correct. So all these will be coming in future programs.
All right,
Okay.
so Wajiha has won with
So who's the one? Number one, Wajiha. Who's the? Oh, okay, mashallah. Sister Wajiha, that's your gift. Thank you. Who's the second? Manayan. Mashallah. Sisters are winning. Third place was Babu. Babu. Masha. Thank you. Okay. So let's use this time to get to know each other, to meet and talk to each other, building a community, and in few minutes the snacks will be ready for you to take. So actually you can go and line up.